It's the final of the World Chess Championship match. Game 14, the last classical game. The score is 6.5, 6.5. And we can have a new World Chess Champion today. If the game ends in a draw, then we will move forward to the tiebreak. But first things first, dramatic things were happening in Game 14. So let's dive straight into the action. It is Ding Liren playing with the white pieces after he managed to survive a pretty bad position yesterday. So he must felt relieved to play with the white pieces. He said that it's not going to be a short draw. So let's see what is happening in this game 14. So here we are. And Ding opens with the move 1, knight f3, d5, g3, reti opening, c5, bishop g2, knight c6, both sides developing. And here, before black does get a chance to occupy the center with a third pawn, white plays the move d4, e6. It looks like we're transposing play into some sort of Catalan again. Castling kingside. Pawn takes d4, knight takes d4. And here, this position has been seen in a number of games actually, and black usually continues with a move bishop c5. This feels so natural to develop the bishop with tempo to hit the knight. But look what Gukesh has in mind. He has almost a new idea. He goes for the move knight ge7. Remarkable idea, but on one hand you're obstructing your bishop on f8. At the same time, that knight is ready to recapture on c6 whenever it's needed. And well, there's another point. After the move c4, looks like the principled continuation, trying to challenge the center. Knight takes d4. Queen takes d4. Now the knight anyway comes to c6 to attack the queen with tempo. The queen has to move again. Queen goes back to d1. And now Gukesh, as he has been doing in a number of games in this match, he grabs more space in the center with the move d4. Interesting idea. And now white challenges this most dangerous pawn with the move e3. Can be very nice, of course, if you can trade off the pawn on d4. This was played in one earlier game in which black continued here with the move e5 to protect the pawn, but also to free the bishop on c8. But Gukesh goes for this move bishop c5, trying to hold on to that pawn on d4. Pretty sure this was still part of his home preparation. Pawn takes d4. And well, how to recapture. In the game, Gukesh recaptured with the bishop, which does look like a good move. But now the knight comes out to c3. And after castling kingside, white is playing ambitiously with the move knight to b5, putting pressure on this bishop on d4. And you can see that white really wants to get that bishop, to claim the bishop pair, and in open position with free development, especially this bishop on g2, looks like a pretty strong long-term piece, annoying black to complete its queenside development. Now, how should black continue? Well, personally, I really think that a move like e5 to give up the bishop pair in order to become active with the bishop from c8 to connect your major pieces quickly soon after that looks like very logical. But Gukesh played here bishop b6. He sticks to the bishop pair as well. And I think this is a critical moment, because how to evaluate this position? In general, I tend to think that white is the one only who can be better here. But should you go for the exchange of queens or not? Well, definitely white is not going to take here himself, because in that case black will gain control over the open file. It seems to me that something like queen e2 looks pretty good, with the idea to go rook d1, and very soon after you can land with your knight on d6, get a beautiful octopus. And well, I'm not sure black is able to fully equalize. It looks like black's position is still pretty cramped. In the game, Ding instead went for the move b3, which is also a very natural idea, because the plan is here to get the bishop out to a3 to hit the rook, and then from a different route you ensure that the knight can come to d6. But the main drawback is that it's rather slow, and after the move a6, that knight cannot really go to d6. If you do play that move knight d6, there are ideas now to put a bishop on d4, attacking the rook in the corner. And that does look bad, because now the knight on d6 is no longer defended as well. So black is going to win material. Instead, knight goes back to c3, and anyway, the bishop comes to d4 to pin the knight. It's not a problem because white defends it with the move bishop to b2. e5. Anyway, excellent move. You protect the bishop. You do surrender the d5 square. That's the main drawback, but at the same time, you're now finally able to get out the bishop from c8. Queen d2. Bishop e6. So black also gets out his last minor piece, and now the knight comes into d5. And well, generally speaking, I slightly prefer white because of that knight on d5. It seems to me that bishop on d4 will be exchanged very soon. How should black approach this position? Well, Gukesh plays it as active as possible with the move b5. And I do like it. It's a nice dynamical move with the idea to create some open file for the rook. Like black is intending to take on c4, and if you do take back, well then at some point black is able to occupy that b file himself, putting pressure there on that side of the board. But white definitely has some grip on the position thanks to the pawn on c4, and that pawn is supporting the knight on d5. But here, I think Ding is really showing some sort of weaknesses of himself by releasing the tension prematurely. I mean, it's not a bad move. It's possible. You can take on b5, because if you do take on d5 here as black, the knight on c6 is hanging. But after just black recaptures with a pawn, what are you going to do with that knight on d5? I think it's a pity. It's a serious concession. I'm not a fan of it, but Ding is trying to simplify as quickly as he can. Knight f4 is his idea, exploiting the unprotected knight on c6. But anyway, black captures on f4. Bishop takes c6. Bishop takes b2. Now also the d file is open, some queens are hanging, but you take back with the queen on b2. White is attacking the rook on a8, but there is a rook b8. And material speaking, it's even, because white is never really able to take that pawn on f4. If you take, there's queen d6, and black is gonna regain the pawn on f4. So that is looking great. Instead of taking on f4, white is not inclined to weaken his own kingside position. Played rook fd1, attacking the queen. That's fine. Queen goes to b6 to attack the bishop. Bishop drops back. Black takes the pawn on g3. White recaptures with the h-pawn. And now black played excellent, nice technical move, b4, fixing the pawns on the queen side. And now the question is, how should you approach this as white? And I think here again, Ding really shows that he wants to aim for simplifications, as he played here the move a4, basically forcing black to capture en passant. Otherwise, you have a nice protected passed pawn. However, I think there is also something to say for the approach of doubling rooks on the d file, put a queen on d2, and keep an eye on that pawn on b4. That's also fine. But let's have a look what happens after a4. Pawn takes, rook takes. Now don't take the pawn on b3. There is a rook b1, and you have problems holding on to your bishop on b3. So that would be a serious mistake. But black can just play a move like g6. That's fine. Just avoiding any sort of back rank mates for later on. And what is white going to do with his pawn weakness? Because he cannot really move the queen or the rook, because then the pawn on b3 will be taken. But now Ding goes for the move queen d4. Once again, he's offering the exchange of queens. And for now, Gukesh said, well, I want to keep queens on the board. I want to keep as many pieces on the board as possible. And then later, he wants to take with the bishop on b3. But here, Gukesh keeps queens on the board. And Ding played the move b4, saying, please take my pawn. I want to get rid of it. With only condition being that he wants to exchange queens. So after b4, take, we have this endgame of 3 versus 2 on one wing. And we all know that it should be a draw. Rook a8. White is aiming for more exchanges. Rooks are coming off the board. Black plays g5. Bishop d5. offering the exchange of bishops. And we remember also from yesterday's game that this rook endgame of 3 versus 2 is a relatively an easy draw. But Gukesh is keeping the bishop on the board. Rook c1, king g7, rook c7, attacking the pawn on f7. But that can be solved by bishop g6. Rook c4, again, offering an exchange of one set of pieces. Here, black keeps the rooks on the board. Rook b1 check, king g2. Rook e1, rook b4, waiting move. Black is going to make progress here by advancing the pawns on the king side. Rook a4, rook e5, attacking the bishop. Bishop f3 back, king h6. King is also joining the game. King g1, rook e6, rook c4, and now the move g4, attacking the bishop. But in a way it's also a concession, because after moving the bishop away, the pawn break with h4 will become less attractive. Rook d6, attacking the bishop. Bishop b7, bishop stays on the diagonal. King g5. And here, Ding rightly goes for the move f3. Nice idea to go for the exchange of pawns. Black goes f5. Pawn takes, pawn takes. It's a 2 versus 1, guys. You're very close to a draw. And remember, even the endgames, let's say the 2 pawns of black and white's pawn is going to be exchanged. And even if black wins the white bishop, the light squared bishop, endgame of rook and bishop versus rook is also a theoretical draw. So this means that white is really close holding the position here. Rook b4, bishop f7, king f2, rook d2 back. And the king can go back to g1. That's fine. I mean, you have cut off the king, but black's king cannot really join play. The bishop is helping back in defense as well. King f6, rook b6, king g5. Rook b4, preventing any type of move like f4 coming in. No pawn break. Bishop e6, rook a4, rook b2, attacking the bishop. Of course, don't blunder your bishop, guys. King f6, rook f4, king e5. And here we are, guys. After 14, well, let's say 13 and a half games. Here, this is absolutely the most dramatic moment of the game, of the match. And here, the champion is being decided as Ding goes for the move rook f2, and that allows rook takes f2, king takes f2, and bishop d5, also forcing the exchange of bishops, because the bishop on a8 cannot move, it cannot leave the diagonal. Bishop takes d5, king takes d5, king e3, king e5, and here Gukesh won the game. Ding Liren resigned. I mean, the pawn endgame is hopeless, but let me show you what happens exactly. If you move away with your king to d3, then black can play f4, and he will break through with the king and pawn. If you do take, you have king takes, king e2, king g3, excellent move. King f1, white is not back in time because of king h2, and the g pawn is going to be promoted. Now you may think, well, instead of king d3, there are other possibilities. Well, if you play a move like king f2, it's very important that black is not going to play here king e4. There's king e2, and you do hold the opposition as white. But the key plan here is to play king d4, trying to outflank the white king. And after king e2, now you play king e4. It is black who has the opposition, because if the king goes to f2, here's this outflanking idea with the move king d3. The king has to go to g2. It has to keep the pawn protected on g3, but white is unable to do that for a long period of time. Eventually black will win that pawn on g3, and that is the reason why after the transition into a king and pawn endgame, here Ding Liren resigned. Well, that is absolutely incredible, and it means that Gukesh is the new World Chess Champion 2024. He's the 24th champion in history. Also, one of the youngest ones. He's 18 years old. I think only Ponomarev was actually younger when he won his title. I think it was in 2000, if I'm not mistaken. But that is absolutely remarkable. And I imagine all Indian people, you're so happy for your fellow countrymen. Congratulations also to you for the overwhelming support. I really like to see so many Indian people here in Singapore cheering for Gukesh. But I also have to say that I really feel sorry to Ding. I mean, we have all never been in this situation, but we can imagine the pain Ding must feel here after going for this horrible blunder with Rook F2, one of the most horrible blunders in history of World Chess Championship matches. I mean, basically any other move would have done the job. Like you can go Bishop C6, for instance, or you can go Rook A4. Just make waiting moves, and there's no way for Black to liquidate into a King and Pawn endgame. I mean, the Bishop endgame and also the Rook endgame, it is a draw. Rook and Bishop against Rook and Bishop is also a draw. The only endgame which can potentially be losing is the King and Pawn endgame. And well, Ding, after feeling so much stress in the last couple of weeks, he made it unforgivable mistake. Well, very sorry for him, but once again, I would also like to say that perhaps it must be some sort of relief for him not to hold the title of World Chess Champion any longer. A lot of people, of course, were also saying that how is it possible, like somebody was like number 23, 24 in the world, how can he be World Chess Champion, etc. There was this criticism on the system, on Ding being the world champion. I just hope that we will now get to see the Ding Liren back to his form he once had. We all remember the times he was rated over 2800. Even in this match, he showed some really nice games, especially his white game. He managed to win game, what was it? Game 12, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, game 12. So that is really impressive as well. And I hope that he will find the joy back of playing over the board chess. But for now, we have a new World Chess Champion. How is this going to boost chess all over the world, especially in India? And maybe Gukesh will be a champion for a long time, or other Indian World Chess Champions will appear. Very curious to see what is going to happen in the near future. Anyway, Gukesh, congratulations. I wish you a nice celebration, and also to your team and all your fans, your family, etc. Thanks for watching this World Chess Championship match, guys. I hope you really did enjoy my my work. If you haven't followed yet my channel, make sure to do that. And then definitely more exciting things will come up on this channel very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.